Hello, I'm David Christman, cinema studies major, and I've done a bit of work in the film industry. And welcome once more to the Double Shots Film Focus. Today, we're going to take a look at Argo, directed by Ben Affleck and starring himself alongside Bryan Cranston and many other talented actors. Argo is set during the Iranian Revolution and the ensuing hostage crisis, and tells the story of 6 members of the American embassy who managed to escape before the compound was stormed, and managed to hide out in the Canadian ambassador's house. The CIA is alerted, and exfiltration expert Tony Mendez, played by Affleck, is called in to get the Americans out. He comes up with the only cover story that is deep enough and improbable enough to get the Americans out. There are film crews scouting Iran for a location to shoot a sci-fi Star Wars knockoff in. The name of the movie they're pretending to make? Argo.
You need a script?
Argo, science fantasy adventure.
Moonscape, Mars, desert.
They need an exotic location to shoot.
You need a producer.
If I'm doing a fake movie, it's going to be a fake hit.
The acting in Argo is good across the board. Affleck in the role of Tony Mendez holds the film together as the one in charge of the mission on the ground, and we see both the personal and professional sides of the character. Bryan Cranston as Tony's boss performs excellently as the middleman caught between the rest of the US bureaucracy and Tony. Where the acting really shines through are the 6 Americans. Each one gives just the right mix of seeming paranoid, scared, and determined. Yet, despite this, they all have their own personalities. You never feel like they're just a group of interchangeable faces. They're each an individual with their own hopes, dreams, and demons to struggle with. The movie also managed to evoke the feeling of the era well. There's a small amount of original footage from the actual Iranian Revolution fit into the film, especially at the beginning, and Affleck as director manages to cut between real-life events and those newly filmed passably well. I never saw anything as I was watching that threw me out of the time period. It seemed like everything was truly from the 1970s. Yet, at the same time, Argo didn't feel like it was trying too hard. Affleck clearly did a good job establishing the time and place, and didn't feel as psychotic in its devotion to the time period as last year's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was, which in my book is a good thing.
You have 72 hours to get them out.
They're getting a visitor.
You gotten people out this way before?
No.
Another thing that Argo did well was keep the suspense high. Even though the movie is based off historical events that must have turned out a certain way, the movie managed to keep me guessing as to what would happen until the very end. The suspense didn't feel forced either, as it so often can in these based on a true story films. Part of that comes from the direction, but another part from the actual events. While the Iranian hostage crisis is something most people have learned about in school, not many people would be familiar with the story Argo tells, making you always ask yourself, what will happen next? It sounds like there's a lot good about Argo, and there is. However, I wouldn't call it a great movie. It's one of the best thrillers I've seen in a while, and it functions well as a period piece. There's nothing specifically wrong with Argo. In fact, there's a lot right with it. But there's nothing that makes it seem like it'll stand the test of time. Making a statement like that leaves a lot up in the air, and I could end up being wrong. But while I think Argo is a very good film, I don't think it'll be remembered as something special in 10 or 15 years.
I'm responsible.
You really believe your little story is going to make a difference when there's a gun to our heads?
I think my little story is the only thing between you and a gun to your head.
All in all, Argo is a good film. It's a great thriller, and a good movie overall. Everyone in it does their jobs well, especially Affleck, as both lead and director. If you want a good, solid film built on suspense, then Argo will fit the bill. Just don't expect it to be the most amazing thing you've ever seen. Argo opened today, the 12th of October, and is rated R.